there's no easy way of saying this other than I am not necessarily disappointed, but I am highly upset at what it is that I witnessed when upon me watching Transformers Rise of the Beast. This movie was bad. It was very bad. I honestly truly believe it was like one of the worst movies I've seen all year. I've never been as unbelievably bored watching a movie as much as I have with this, to the point where I got tired of rolling my eyes at every little ridiculous thing that was really done uh, at the behest of truly nonsense. Um, and upon me actually watching this movie, I then backtracked and watched Bumblebee, a movie that I enjoyed upon it originally coming out, and then rewatching it again, noticed a lot of more issues than from after the whole fanfare aspect of it kind of went away. Noticed a lot of more issues that then I hope didn't carry on into this movie, and which I was sorely mistaken, as they didn't carry on any of the mistakes that happened in Bumblebee, but instead created a lot other ones. They created more mistakes, and then they build on those in the most ridiculous fashion ever. So without further ado, I'm gonna get into my review, but I would just like to inform people because of how I'm going to break this down. I don't want to really ruin anyone's time if they decide to go watch this movie, but I urge you not to watch this movie, as I don't think it deserves support or garners any type of viewership, thus making sure that what they're trying to do with this franchise does not happen, but at the same time, someone takes note of exactly what it is that they need to do in order to make sure Transformers becomes an actual money making franchise that it could be, rather than what it is that they are doing. So I'm going to break it down into three parts. First is going to be my no spoiler review. Second will be a spoiler review. And third will be my take on the franchise itself, or what the movie did as a fan of Transformers. So, without further ado, I'm gonna get into it. I said that twice, but for the most part, this movie has a nonsense story. A lot of elements that run together just absolutely make no sense. The main character, aside from being an incredibly bland character, has absolutely no type of screen presence whatsoever. You have multiple moments in which they have him taking the main stage in terms of talking or trying to rally the troops together with the speech or something like that, but nothing that actually is substantial or fits within the character. It doesn't really feel like it's coming from anyone influential. This kind of was like the same issue that came with Mark Wahlberg in the last couple of Transformers movies, where you're here and they're telling me you're the main character, but you're not likable. I know you're a likable and good and talented actor, but in this movie, for whatever reason, how they wrote your character is not likable at all. In fact, you're downright ridiculous. This honestly really hindered a lot with the movie, as well as the addition of Pete Davidson's character, who played Mirage within the movie. I recently saw like an interview where, or not an interview, but an article that stated that essentially he stole the show, or he like every scene that he's in is basically fantastic and great. And I'd have to admit that there is some truth to that, but ultimately it comes for the fact that no one else had any type of screen presence. Literally no other character really talks as much as they had Mirage. Honestly, you see them force his character into so many different elements, as if the movie needed to insist on his character taking main stage. It did not garner it nor justify the actions of him taking main stage, but they did everything they could to make him basically stick out almost more than Bumblebee, an actual known and well represented character within the Transformers franchise, which honestly is incredibly insulting and very much disappointing within the movie series itself, generally. So it really felt off, and it really felt unappealing when you see exactly how much they gave in terms of screen time towards the character of Mirage. Hell, he's even the same height as Bumblebee, and Bumblebee, in terms of Transformers lore, is supposed to be the smallest of the Transformers. But that's later. That's much later. But still, it just felt very off-putting and incredibly forced in how much they just did whatever they could to shovel Pete Davidson in every scene, thus kind of making sure that he would take center stage with every scene. The acting and the voice acting that he did was, it was palpable. You can stomach it, but it wasn't anything that was fantastic. Honestly, again, you kind of wanted more things to come from an interaction between the other Autobots rather than just Mirage himself. But the movie mainly focused on just Mirage as well as the human counterparts, which honestly has always been a folly of all the Transformers movies. And for whatever reason, this one did not change that one bit. It fell within the same plot devices that they generally give, which is the slow start and trying to figure out the life of the main character, dealing with whatever it is they're dealing with before their interaction with the Autobots, and then upon them being with the Autobots, and then the movie plays out from there. Blah 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 blah. They save the world. That's how all of them have always played out. But with the addition of the Maximals within this movie and the majority of the promotion being that they're introducing the Maximals, it felt as if they needed to bring them in more or essentially have more screen presence with those characters as well as the Autobots. But instead, again, the movie fell to the wayside because it delved more within the human aspect, this time starting off with two main characters rather than just the typical one who kind of bring someone else along with them for the ride. But this generally was just very disheartening, guys. Like I said, it's incredibly distracting and annoying when it came to the movie, as multiple things happened that just kind of put the humans at the forefront of whatever problem and situation that they had without really justifying the necessity of keeping them there in the first place. You had generally a lot of things going on that just kind of felt off-putting and not really well done, where characters would say certain aspects or bring up certain things that kind of move the plot along, but essentially it didn't make any sense within the confines of the story. So they just said this, like they would say this is this, but then they would give no explanation as to how does that make any sense with what's going on? Like, how do you justify this happening? Or how do you justify that happening? I'll get into more detail with that in a little bit later, but just more so a very nonsensical aspect, which then again led to me rolling my eyes to a lot of aspects because they would just bring up something, not acknowledge it, and then move on. So they just bring up something and move on. Bring up another thing, move on. Bring up another thing and move on. Nothing was actually answered or really done, but stuff just kept happening. And it wasn't entertaining, despite the fact that, yeah, there were moving pieces going around, but nothing was generally being done, thus making it feel incredibly hollow and empty and honestly very much boring. And I urge people to not go watch this movie. It is not worth the money at all. It is not something that you generally want to see. Hell, go watch Spider-Man another time if you want to, or just save your money up for Flash. That's coming out in a couple of days. But this was something that just was inexcusable. And then upon leading into multiple elements within the story where again they kept forcing their hand when it came towards the human interaction or just overall justification of the humans being there, just felt so bland and tacked on and just uninspired that it just made the movie such a trudge to go through. I've never been so incredibly bored watching a movie in so long, because typically, you kind of pick out ones that you might be interested in seeing. And this was something that I thought, it being Transformers would still be somewhat entertaining. Hell, even the movie with Mark Wahlberg is very much entertaining in the very beginning of the movie before it gets into the more ridiculous aspects of it. But not the one with the knights and the girl from Dora Explorer. Not that one. That one is just a shit show all the way through. But this one reminisces a lot with that one, if you will, without the giant spectacle that one presented with making it to where Unicron was the planet. This one essentially felt on that same realm where it's like, well, we're just making up stuff as we go to try and introduce and have more elements going on, but we're not really given any type of context as to why you should really care. Why is this really a threat? Why are the humans here? Why do the humans even matter to be here? Why? And the movie just insists on moving on without answering any of these questions, which honestly, I don't even know if that would have helped the movie in any way, shape, or form, because it in itself was, again, a hollow mess. But it just would have justified a lot of the actions that would take place within the movie. And that's generally all that I want to cover within my overall review. So don't watch it. Hey, real quick, make sure you check any of the links down below if you want to see any of the stuff that I'm involved with. This includes more episodes of my podcast, as well as a comic book that I'm working on with my buddies over at These Guys. But as always, this has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Daniel the Flame, and as always, good people, I hope you had fun.